Please.
President-elect Alice, Lucas Dwelly. I have my family friend here, Frank Hilliard, a retired attorney and Marine Corps officer.
Welcome, Frank.
President Alice, I'm Randy Coe, past president, and I have guests, Jill Bell from Passport here. You have to stand if you're a guest, by the way. And I'll introduce her, although she's not necessarily my guest. Becky Simpson with the University of Louisville, to her left. Working around the table, we have, to my left, is Norbert Arrington, counsel. Norbert, and Jimmy Henderson. Jimmy, would you please stand? All those are from U of L. And I don't know who's going to introduce these people to my right. Is someone going to introduce these two lovely ladies here to my right? Someone going to do that?
Go ahead, Randy.
Who's going to introduce Dr. Ramsey's wife? Are you going to introduce her, Jim? Is this, or what?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Actually, we do have someone set to do that back there.
We have someone. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
President-elect Alice, I'm Amber Halloran from the Kentucky Center for the Arts, and I have Larissa Reese, our Government Relations and Senior VP of Development from the Kentucky Center.
Thank you.
Hi, President-elect Alice. I'm Rick Smith with Kentucky One Health System. I'm proud to have Mr. David MacArthur. David, you all may recognize, longtime journalist in town, now has been with Kentucky One Health System at the University of Louisville. Glad to have him with us, and go Fern Creek and go U of L.
Hey.
President-elect Alice, I'm Maggie Galloway, and I have Adam Casson, my business partner at InScope Medical Solutions.
Hi, Adam. Welcome.
President-elect Alice, I have two guests with me. My name is Larry Sloan. My guests are John Stern of the Louisville Wood Flooring Company and Mike Barron, who's retired from PNC.
Welcome.
President-elect Alice, my name is Ashley Brower. My guest today is Claire Nichols. He's principal at Guthrie Mays Public Relations.
And Claire's going to be rejoining us. Yay. Oh, I'm sorry. I've mixed my Claires up. I'm sorry. No. Different Claire.
President-elect Alice, I'm Jim Watkins. My guest today is Tom Swink. He's Senior Vice President, Head of Community Banking at PBI Bank, and a potential member.
Welcome.
President-elect Neville Blakemore. I have Scott Frazier, the Chief Financial Officer at Great Northern Building Products, my guest today.
Welcome. Thanks for being here.
President-elect Alice, I'm Joey Bailey, and today I'll give you the guests that I brought as well as Dr. Ramsey. We have his wife, Jane, his daughter, Jackie. We have Dr. Nate Meyer, the principal of Fern Creek High School. We have Skipper Martin on the board of directors of Fern Creek High School alumni. We have Michael Gatton, chair of the board of Fern Creek High School alumni and my pastor. We have Kathleen Smith. We have Becky Simpson. We have Kathy Dykstra. And we have Jimmy Henderson.
Welcome.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me, Dr. Cosby slipped in on me.
And Frank Smith.
Frank Smith, I'm sorry. That wasn't on my list.
President Alice, Patrick Welsh. My guest is my neighbor and basketball traveling buddy, Andrew Wolfson.
Lucky guy.
President-elect Alice, I'm Julie Schmidt, and I want to also introduce Karen Coots, who's Dr. Coots' daughter, who's with us today. So
wonderful. Well, thanks to all our guests for being here today, and thanks to all the Rotarians who've brought someone. We do want to continue to encourage you to bring people, particularly those who are prospective members of our club. You may know that we are in a race this next 3 months, membership race with some other clubs, and we want to win. This is a whole group of class presidents in here, so I know I want to win. So there's 2 clubs that have dropped out. They're wimps, and they've already figured out that we're going to win. But we do need the lifeblood of our club is to bring new people who are leaders in our community and represent the rich diversity of the civic community in Louisville. So please continue to bring folks to the table. And Barry Denton is hosting today's What is Rotary table right there. So right after this meeting, if you are interested in membership, we have a very brief presentation that's kind of a required first step to joining our club, and Barry will kind of give you the skinny on what is Rotary. So I hope you'll join him at the table. And now, Rick Harned, who is Information Technology Classification, to introduce our birthday celebrants.
Thank you, President-elect Alice. We have 9 birthdays in the club this week, but only 2 of them have been hardy enough to show up at the birthday table. There may be others out in the other tables. I have not seen them, but I wish them a warm birthday. We have Joe Ackerman, who's a CPA and CEO of Advance ENT, Joe standing up, and Phil Scherer, who's president of Commercial Kentucky Real Estate. We also have a little bit of an interloper, a February birthday, who is going to be traveling next month, and we thought we could keep him at the birthday table too, General Stu Burt.
Happy birthday. All right, so next week we will be back here in this room. We have another wonderful week ahead with Mayor Greg Fisher providing his annual State of the City address. So be sure to be here for that. Also for your calendar, we have upcoming a business synergy event, and Ken Grossman is going to come to the mic and tell us a little bit about that activity. Ken.
Thank you, Alice. We've had 2 great business synergy events. I think our next one's going to be awesome as well. Actually, President-elect Alice is going to be the host, and it's going to be at Kentucky One's new Healthy Lifestyle Center, which is located at Medical Center Jewish Northeast. It's off Old Henry Road in the Gene Snyder, so very easy to get to. If you've attended our business synergy events before, you know we'll have hors d'oeuvres and cocktails, and there'll be lots of good stuff there. But in addition to that, we're going to do a couple unique things. Alice is going to introduce us to acupuncture, and there's an innovative new genetic test for coronary artery disease that we'll be able to take. So it'll be kind of an eye-opener. So come and see firsthand how fitness programming coordinated by nurses and exercise physiologists can improve your health. The date is Wednesday, February 3rd from 5 to 7 p.m. It's a free event for Rotarians, great opportunity to bring a prospective new member to our club. And please RSVP. We like to kind of get a head count, how many people we're going to have. So if you can go to RSVP at events at rotary45.org, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. I hope everybody will come. Now, in response also to a Rotary International initiative to attract more women leaders to Rotary, we are having our first ever Women in Rotary event hosted by some of the top women executives who are members of our club. It's February 9th at 5:30 in the living room at the Jewish Hospital Red Heart and Lung Center. There are invitations on the registration table at the back, and this is an event where the power of invitation is really important. So if you know someone in our community who really should be part of our club, take an invitation and invite them to come and let me know so that if you're a guy, because this is a gal event, let me know so that we make sure that they get a warm welcome. And we hope to have other such events like this for other groups in the future. We also want you to mark your calendar for Rotary Over the Rainbow, our fundraiser event. It's going to be at the Gramercy, this cool new venue that I don't think many people have seen. I certainly haven't been there yet. So mark your calendar for March 15th. There'll be a live auction, a silent auction, and this is an event to benefit our Rotary Foundation. So I hope you'll plan to save the date and be there. Also, Bourbon and Braille, our upcoming event at the American Printing House for the Blind. That's March 22nd at 5:30. We have, thanks to Bob Belknap, who's making this a free event. There is a cap on the attendance, so if you're interested in coming, I think this one's also going to be a lot of fun. Be sure to get your RSVP in. And then also, because our club is so large, sometimes it's hard for us to get to know one another. If you haven't had your bio appear in Sparks, be sure to send it in via email to Debbie. It's a great way for us to kind of get a snapshot of the members of the club. And we're kind of running out of the ones that we already have, so please send those in. And now I wanted to make a special presentation. Periodically, you know, our club honors members who exemplify the spirit of service above self. And today, I have the privilege of doing so for a man who is one of our club's most accomplished leaders, and that is Dr. Joseph Coots, who's sitting here at the center of the room. Now, we all know that Dr. Coots has gained world renown as one of the founding partners of Kleinert Coots and Associates Hand Care Center, which pioneered the field of hand and microsurgery and made Louisville an internationally recognized center of excellence. The Coots and Kleinert list of firsts, pardon the pun, is literally as long as my arm. It includes the first 5 hand transplants ever performed in the United States, and the first bilateral upper arm replantation in the world. But what may be less well known is just how much Dr. Coots has accomplished as a civic leader beyond his busy medical career. He was a member of the 1984 class of Leadership Louisville, the 1987 class of Leadership Kentucky, actually a founding member, according to Julie Schmidt, chairman of Spalding University, active on the boards of DePaul, Greater Louisville Inc., Fraser Rehab VNA Advisory Board, and much more. And lucky for us, he was president of our club from 1991 to 1992. And he was recognized as with our club's Lifetime Service Award in 2006. Now, interestingly, in 2006, life-size bronze casts of Drs. Coots and Kleinert's hands were made to forever commemorate their amazing achievements. And I happened to come into possession of miniature casts of those and have had them for a while. But they don't belong to me. They belong, I think, to Dr. Coots. So today, Julie Schmidt, who's chair of our awards committee, is going to join me as we thank Dr. Coots for lending a helping hand to generations in our community and our world by giving him these 2 miniatures of the originals so that he and Mary Jane can enjoy them in their new home for years to come. Thank you, Dr. Coots. We got the picture? Oh.
Brandy.
And now we have introduction of our distinguished speaker by Joey Bailey, who's Executive Director of the Fern Creek High School Alumni Association. Before Joey begins the introduction, I did just want to remind you that I'm out of breath from running up and down. I need to exercise more. We invited you to send your questions in advance to our speakers committee, and today Randy Coe, past president, is going to be moderating the questions after the speaker. If there was a burning question that you didn't send in and you want asked, Randy's over here, so you can slip him a note, and we'll try to get in as many as we can during our question and answer period. Joey.
Thanks, President-elect Alice. It is indeed an honor to introduce my friend and fellow Creeker today. But rather than reading his bio that was in Sparks this week, I'll tell you a few things about Jim from our days in high school. He lived next to the 17th green at Wildwood Country Club, where we would caddy in the summer. Caddies would go there early in the morning to sign up for that day and had to wait for their names to be called for the loop around the hills, valleys, and yes, actually Fern Creek, which flows through the course. Caddies would play cards and eat moon pies and drink Royal Crown Colas. In the caddy shack, there actually was one. At the end of the long trip around the course, we'd feel lucky to be given a whole $5. We played in the Fern Creek golf team at the Iron Gate Country Club, which was designed by Robert Trentz Jones, which is now part of the Parklands Project. In high school, Jim was involved in many activities, one of which was the Rocket Club, which would later launch him into his future life. He was the Beta Club Quill and Scroll annual staff business manager, student council, and was president of his senior class. His photo actually has a striking resemblance to a TV personality, the famous Mayberry character Opie. He was chosen as most likely to succeed in his class and was pictured behind the desk of the Jefferson County Judge's desk. The president of the U of L's desk wasn't available at the time. He was chosen to be in the very first class inducted in the Fern Creek High School Hall of Fame. It is my pleasure to bring you my friend and one of our most successful alumni from Fern Creek, Kentucky, Dr. James Ramsey.
Thanks, Joe. I've never, is this on? I've never been introduced that way before, Joey, so, but that's going back a long way, and Joey's family and my family do go back a very long way together, members at Beulah Presbyterian Church, and so Joey, thank you, and thank you for your incredible service. You've had a distinguished career and continuing that tradition with your service, in particular your service to Fern Creek. So I'm going to get going here, and I've got my little PowerPoint, and I want to say what a great honor it is to be back with you, Downtown Rotary Club of Louisville. A lot of times I'm asked to give speeches and never invited back, but you all occasionally invite me back, so I take that as a good sign. But you're an outstanding organization, an organization I have great respect for. The values that you espouse are values that we should all live by. You are community leaders, opinion leaders. I think I've mentioned to you in my other presentations, my dad was a lifelong member of the Butyl Fern Creek Club. I'm an honorary member, and I appreciate that very much, being an honorary member of this club. And I think I've told you the story before, but after the breakup of the Soviet Union in the early 1990s, I had a contract with the government, State Department, to do work in Kazakhstan and helping that former Soviet republic make a transition from a command economy to a market economy. And one of the people that I was working on my many trips to Almaty, which was then the capital, was a Rotarian, and that individual started the first Rotary Club in the Republic of Kazakhstan, and I went to the meetings and so really feel a part of the Rotarians. I know I just have a few minutes, but first I want to give a report to you, our shareholders of the University of Louisville. We're a public institution, proud that we're a public institution, and so we want to report to you, the stockholders, shareholders of the university. I want to update you on some of the issues at the university, some of the noise or challenges or many of the things that you read about or hear about. And then finally, just give you some personal reflections. So first, report to you the taxpayers of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. The University of Louisville, as you know, has a long history going back to 1798. 8 community leaders came together and said if the University of Louisville was to be a place of some consequence, if the community of Louisville was to be a place of some consequence, it needed an institution of higher education. And those 8 individuals became the benefactors that founded the University of Louisville. For most of our history, we were a private institution. We were private until 1970, came in the state system in 1970. And when we came into the state system, we were another mouth to feed, and an expensive mouth, because we had a medical school, a dental school, law school, engineering school, all of which are located at the University of Kentucky. So the seminal date in our history, the seminal event, in my view, in our history, was 1997. And I was there on leave from Western Kentucky University, and their faculty, Skipper, was there. But under the leadership of Governor Paul Patton, Governor Patton pushed forward the Post-Secondary Education Reform Act of 1997. And it was a 200-page bill, but it was a very simple bill about a better Kentucky. And the route that Governor Patton believed was the road that would take us to a better Kentucky was investing in higher education. We'd just done CARE reform a few years earlier, so it was time to reform higher education. In the Post-Secondary Education Reform Act, for the first time, the people of Kentucky said to the University of Louisville, here's what we expect you to be accountable to. Here's the mandate that we're giving you. and that's to be a great nationally recognized metropolitan research university. That is what we live to achieve every day. Now, I'm an economist. I don't get to teach very much, but where two or more are gathered, I always give a very brief economics lecture, so bear with me for about 2 minutes here. A little bit of economics and a little bit of economics on the Commonwealth of Kentucky. If you can see this picture very well, along the horizontal axis is time, and it's different dates right up to the most recent month, but it goes back to the year 2000. The Post-Secondary Education Reform Act was passed in '97, so we were given a mandate. And right after we were given that mandate was a golden era for higher education. There was Bucks for Brains funding and research funding, and the KEYS program, the scholarship program, was created. It was a great time for higher ed. But shortly after that, the Kentucky economy went into a recession. What I look at as an economist to sort of value or to assess what's happening in the state is I look at how many people are working. How many people are employed. And so what I plot here is employment on a monthly basis over time. And when people lose their jobs like they were doing in 2001, 2002, the first sort of dip that you see there, 2003 and 2004, when people lose their jobs, they're not paying state income tax, and they don't have discretionary income to spend on goods and services, and so the sales tax goes down, and we take budget cuts. 75% of the state's general fund comes from the individual income tax and the sales tax. So when employment's not growing, there's state budget issues. And so the University of Kentucky and the University of Louisville during that period of time went through 5 budget cuts. So we'd been given a mandate, and then immediately, 3 years later, we went through 5 budget cuts. We understand the business cycle, and so employment began to grow in Kentucky, and then the great national recession of 2007, 2008, 2009, the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression of the 1930s. And you can see what happened to employment. And even though employment has finally come back and we have more people working in Kentucky now than we've ever had working, we still have budget problems in Kentucky because over the last decade we have allowed ourselves to find ourselves with a structurally imbalanced budget. Our recurring expenditures at the state level are greater than our recurring revenues. So people are back working, they're back paying income taxes and sales taxes, but our pension liability is far outstripping the growth in our revenues. The population, the Medicaid population is growing faster and has resulting costs and so forth. So since 2008, higher education has taken another series of budget cuts. And at the University of Louisville, we've been through 9 budget cuts in that period of time, a total of 14 budget cuts over the last 15 years. And to make things a little bit worse, this is manufacturing employment. We've been historically a manufacturing state. And manufacturing has been our best paying jobs. And you can see what's happened to manufacturing employment. That little bitty national recession that was just a blip on the national radar screen in 2001 and 2002 had a profound impact in Kentucky because we began to lose our best paying jobs, our manufacturing jobs, our durable manufacturing jobs, jobs that paid good. And I grew up in Fern Creek, Kentucky, and remember when Appliance Park opened in Buchel. And remember its heyday when 26,000 people employed there, and you could graduate from Fern Creek, get a job at GE, and have a wonderful quality of life. Today, GE employs 6,000 people. We have great partnerships with GE, and we can get a lot of those jobs back through advanced manufacturing. But you can see what's happened to manufacturing employment. So a lot of the jobs that we have added back over the last several years are lower paying jobs than the jobs we've lost. So even though our employment numbers look good, again, some of the jobs, the great jobs, logistics, distribution, and other areas, don't pay what the jobs we lost were. So what do we do at the University of Louisville? We're facing the issue of having a state mandate to be a great university and to do things in our region, in our community, and for our state. Because Governor Patton's vision was that for Kentucky to succeed as a state, Louisville had to succeed. And Louisville, as the only major urban area, had to drive the train. And Governor Patton knew that great cities have great universities. And the research of Russ DeVoe at the Millikan Institute is pretty clear that the great growing communities have great research universities. And Governor Patton knew that this community needed a great research university. So what did we do? We developed 7 strategies for moving forward in a difficult fiscal environment, a period of budget cut. 1, we do what everybody does, manage cost. And we've cut $130 million out of our budget on the cost side. The things that we did were the easy things that really didn't affect people too much, didn't effectuate too much change. We implemented energy management programs, energy audits, and that really didn't affect people's lives too much. We entered into a prescription drug program, prescription buying program in consortium with the University of Kentucky and Eastern to drive down our prescription drug costs for our health insurance. And again, as long as people got their prescription drugs, that didn't bother people. We wash windows every other year instead of every year, and that didn't bother people. Now we're having to climb higher in the tree. We've picked the low-hanging fruit, and now on a cost management perspective, we're having to do more difficult things that cause real change and challenge people day to day. Our second strategy was to take underperforming assets and make them fully performing. And I hope you've had the chance to drive Shelbyville Road and Hirschburn and see the development that's going on out there. We've developed a joint partnership, joint venture agreement with NTS. We're 51% partner, they're 49%. We've developed 3 buildings. When the first 2 buildings are completely leased, completely full. When the 3rd building is completed and leased, that'll generate $1.2 million in cash flow back to the university to help us with our teaching and research mission. We had 240 acres of property there, very valuable property that was going underutilized, so we're trying to utilize that to move us forward. We wanted to get more value out of our research and our intellectual property. This is Suzanne Ilstead, one of the first Bucks for Brains professors in our state. And Suzanne developed an amazing discovery, a platform that deals with solid organ transplants. So if Joey needed a kidney and I was going to be his donor, what Suzanne would do would take stem cells out of me, put them in Joey before the transplant. And so then when my organ went from me to Joey, his body was thinking it was getting his own kidney, and he wouldn't have to be on these immunosuppressant drugs the rest of his life. We were able to sell that technology to Novartis and realize significant resources from that. Our 4th strategy is to have the private sector do what we're not good at. We're educators, we're teachers, that's what we should do. And so the private sector is our partner in housing and dining, bookstores, all kinds of development ventures. And that's been using someone else's balance sheet, not our own balance sheet, has been an integral part of what we've been trying to do. 5th, we undertook a capital campaign, and I don't see Keith Inman here, but Keith had what I called a hotshot consultant that told us that a university like the University of Louisville could raise about $600 million over a 5-6 year campaign. We had a Board of Trustees member at that time who said, let's shoot for more. Let's not be afraid to fail. And in fact, they actually said they'd rather strike out in the major leagues than hit a home run in the minor leagues. So we set the goal at 750. And we got to 750 and we said we're going to keep going. Let's set the goal for $1 billion. And we went to $1.1 billion. And as I'll mention in a minute, we're going to announce a major gift in a couple of weeks, $22 million gift. We're ready to go on with another campaign even greater than $1 billion. 6, we wanted to be creative and do things that other people haven't done. We've created 3 tax increment financing districts. We have a research park downtown focused on biotechnology, healthcare, life sciences. We have a research park we're developing on the Belknap campus focused on additive manufacturing and helping our manufacturers get jobs back. Focused on logistics and distribution, focused on renewable energy and analytics. And then we have our research park on the Shelby campus. As we add jobs on those research parks, we get a portion of the state taxes and local taxes that are generated to come back to the University of Louisville. And then finally, our 7th strategy was to generate more clinical income to, again, support our teaching and research mission. Right before the holidays, we announced an agreement to a long-standing dispute with Norton's Hospital over the management of the Kosar Children's Hospital. This community is so fortunate to have an outstanding children's hospital, one of the top children's hospital. And it wouldn't be one of the top children's hospital if it weren't for Jerry Ward, Randy Coe, and the Kosera Charities and what they have done for this community. But there were some disputes. Our faculty of primary provided primary physician care in the hospital, but the hospital was managed by Norton's. And so there were tensions, but we worked through that. And we got all that worked out before the holidays, signed an 8-year agreement that will provide the University of Louisville $300 million over those 8 years. And the partnership is back on track and working well. We've done a number of other things in the clinical area. We have 700 practicing physicians at the University of Louisville. They see patients. And if a patient comes in and cannot pay, doesn't have insurance, cannot pay for health care, they'll get the very best in health care at the University of Louisville. But at the same time, we knew we could generate more clinical income to support our teaching and research mission, and that's been one of our strategies. How have we done with these strategies? You can see our budget in 2002. 2002, yeah, that's the year I started, but that's the year of our first budget cut. So if you look at our budget, total budget in 2002, 2003, state appropriation was our #1 source of revenue to the university, $178 million. In the current budget, it's $141 million. Our two largest sources of revenue now, besides tuition, certainly tuition has gone up. That's an issue we can talk more about. But the first line there, the $462 million, is clinical income and research income. The next line is philanthropic support. Our philanthropic support on an annual basis today is $154 million. Our state appropriation is $141 million. So that's what our budget looks like. How have we done? We've had 14 budget cuts. How have we done since the passage of the Post-Secondary Education Reform Act, or how have we done since our first budget cut? To me, this is the most important statistic that we'll go through today, and that's how many baccalaureate degrees we're awarding. And you can see the trend line. We're up 63%. We're graduating over 1,000 more students a year today than we were in 1998. And we do that in great partnership. And I'll talk about Kevin Cosby and our great partnership with Simmons, and Kathy Dykstra and our great partnership with Family Scholar House, and retired, and I'm envious, Tony Newberry. We could not have done anything we've done at the University of Louisville if it wasn't for Tony Newberry and the outstanding work of the Jefferson Community and Technical College. And thank you, Tony. Kentucky has an undereducated population. Our per capita income is 80% of the national average. We deserve better. And the reason that we have per capita income of 80% of the national average is because we have too few people with college degrees. This is an important number and an important statistic, and that's what drives us every day. 6-year graduation rate up 38%. Doctoral degrees awarded up 129%. Let me go back. Research expenditures from 39 million to 179 million, 359. We're to be a major research university. We are Carnegie classification highest level of research. Startups. Maggie got up and talked about her company. We're so proud of her and her colleagues and what they've done with InScope. Startups have gone from one startup company coming out of our research labs in 1998 to 81 startups today. Annual philanthropic. The $86 million in 1998 was right at the end of what was called the Bicentennial Campaign, a campaign that raised a little over $300 million. The rule of thumb for the University of Louisville is you could raise about $1 million a week, $50 million. So when I started, we were raising about $53 million. Last year we raised $237 million. And I'll talk in a minute about where we are at mid-year. The past 10 years, the University of Louisville has had 83 of our students win the prestigious Fulbright scholarships in research and teaching, more than every other school in the Commonwealth of Kentucky combined. You're supposed to cheer. Mid-year, applications for the next year. A lot of noise out there. A lot of editors and all talking about reputational risk and so forth. Applications up 13%. Raised $102 million in the first 6 months of this year. And again, a major gift announcement to support our regenerative medicine program in the next several weeks. We have $1.4 million of construction going on our 3 research parks. Very little of that, almost none of that is state dollars. That's private sector dollars, philanthropic dollars. And we've already spent $1.6 million since 2002. Think about that. From 2002 to 2020, that's $3 billion that has been invested in this community. During the recession, there was one crane in downtown Louisville, and that was our Nucleus project, our life science campus. So my recommendation to the stockholders of the University of Louisville is a very strong recommendation of buy and hold. Don't give up on the University of Louisville. We're moving forward and moving forward aggressively. There's been a lot written. Let's just talk about what's been written, but we're moving forward and we're more focused than we have ever been. We're human beings. I'm human. Jane reminds me of that every day, sometimes multiple times in the same day or same hour. We make mistakes. We have 6,000 employees at the University of Louisville. We operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We're in a lot of lines of business. We're in the housing business, police business, health services business, food business, research business, entertainment business, sports business. And oh yeah, we're in the education business too. So yeah, people make mistakes. And Forrest Gump said sometimes things happen, and we wish they didn't happen, but they happen in all organizations. And our approach at the University of Louisville is we're going to determine wrongdoing. We're going to discover and deal with it openly and honestly. You know about everything that happens at the University of Louisville because that's our attitude. We are transparent. Don't believe anything you read or hear to the contrary. If there's criminal activity, we'll aggressively prosecute criminal activity. Some people are still writing about people that went to jail and have been out for 2 or 3 years. We'll learn from our mistakes. I'm a firm believer that we all fall, we all falter, but we can learn from those mistakes and be better and stronger. And we're not facing any issues that other organizations in this community face. And I'm just glad we don't face the problems that some institutions in higher education. There's nothing that's more counter to the academy than academic fraud and not investigating sexual assaults and sexual abuse and so forth. Some of the noise is for show. Our local newspaper chose after last Thursday's meeting to have a headline front page story that said 2 trustees didn't support me. I'm surprised it wasn't more than that. And that's not news. I got to tell you, that's not news. The Washington Post covered the same meeting and talked about the former governor, the current governor, challenging the legitimacy of the University of Louisville's board. Our board is illegally composed. There's a law that says how many African Americans we should have on our board, how many Democrats we should have, and how many Republicans we should have. And there'll be a court hearing on that next week. Jimmy Higdon, who wrote this article, also said that according to our internal controller's office, the university's net unrecovered loss in these 6 high-profile thefts that have been reported was not $8 million, but was $29,000. That's wrong. Shouldn't have happened. But that's the facts. Let me talk for a second and wrap up, and then we'll have questions. Let me reflect on me. You've heard a lot about Fern Creek. I am from Fern Creek. That's all I am, Jim Ramsey from Fern Creek, Kentucky. And that's all I'll ever be. I'm a teacher, an educator, and I'm an economist. And all I really ever wanted to do was to teach and be an economist. But Paul wrote in his letter to his mentee, his student, Timothy, in the first letter, that Paul said, I was strengthened and called to service. And I've been strengthened and called to service to help educate people so that Kentucky can be a better state. And so that has been, and for whatever time, I'm 67 years old, and I don't know how much longer I want to have all this fun. I want to share it with some people. Other people ought to be able to have as much fun as I have. But I'm going to remain focused on one thing and one thing only. and that's students, and that's young people. And seeing that we recruit students, and seeing that our students graduate ready for the workforce, professional programs, graduate programs, and prestigious postgraduate scholarships like the Fulbright. I'm an economist, and the one thing economists understand is economics. And I didn't know if that would get a laugh or not. Gary Becker won the Nobel Prize in economics, University of Chicago professor. And he is the one that talked about education is an investment good. It's not a consumption good. It's an investment in brain power. It's an investment in human capital. We can invest in roads and bridges and buildings, but our primary top rate of return comes from investing in brain power and people and knowledge. We live in a knowledge-based economy. The most important input into the production process today is brain power. The great companies of today were somebody's ideas that they had in their garage. And they believed in themselves, like Maggie and her team, and they took it to market. Investment in education leads to better standard of living, economically, in terms of healthcare, in terms of social service. So I want to leave you with this. There are people that have been mentors to me and have inspired me, and one of them is Kevin Cosby, and what he's done, not only with his ministry, but in revitalizing Simmons College of Kentucky, because Simmons College of Kentucky, you heard it 3 or 4 months ago. Kevin was right here on this stage and talked to you about Simmons and what they were doing. Simmons can reach people that we cannot reach at the University of Louisville. They can reach students that Tony Newberry couldn't reach at the Jefferson Community Technical College. We're locked at the hip before the holidays. One of my proudest moments, Kevin, was to sign another articulation agreement with you and Frank and Simmons and the great work that you all are doing. And Simmons and Kevin have said education is king. And Martin Luther King has said, all God's children, not just some in some zip codes that are on the east side of Louisville, but all God's children should have the opportunity to get a quality education, because one of my other mentors, Woodford Porter, said, education is the great equalizer. That's our focus at the University of Louisville, and that will be our focus as we continue to move forward. I thank you for all the support. The cards, the letters, the notes, the support I've gotten is overwhelming. And I appreciate it, but I don't want you to worry about me, for no one is more blessed than Jim Ramsey of Fern Creek, Kentucky. My faith is strong. I have an amazing family and friends that believe in me more than I could ever believe in myself. And you see the other guys there, the pugs? They're always glad to see me at the end of the day. They don't read the paper. They use it. They do use it for other purposes. Thank you, and God bless you for all that you do. I got done.
Thank you, Dr. Ramsey. And now Randy will pose a few questions for us.
Thank you, President-elect Alice, and thank you, Dr. Ramsey. That was inspiring and very informative. 2 questions have been brought forward by different members, and I'm going to try to phrase these as best I can. Workforce development is, to all of us in this room particularly, we know how important that is for our economy, our society, an educated and capable workforce, as you've mentioned in your presentation. Yet we also understand that the state budget that's looming is going to be very, very challenging, and of course is very difficult in a Commonwealth with 120 counties, which has different economic needs and political needs throughout the Commonwealth. What do you foresee its impact, and what do you see happening for the University of Louisville and education in this upcoming budget?
It's going to be a tough budget. When Skipper and I left with Governor Patton in 2000, I left in 2002, Skipper a little later, the pension programs were nearly 100% fully funded. Today, one of the pension programs is 17% funded. I believe Governor Bevin is going to deal with that and deal with it right up front. We had 425,000 more people on Medicaid. That's a good thing. The people need the very best in healthcare, but we've got to have a plan to pay for those people in 2017 as a portion of that cost comes to the state, and I think he's going to deal with that. We need tax reform in this state, and at some point I think he's going to deal with that issue. We have lost the elasticity, another great economic phrase, in our tax structure. When we were in office, for every 1% increase in personal income, taxes rose to about 1.2%, tax revenues. Today it's about 0.8%. So I think that Governor Bevin is going to take this session and probably he will need more than one session to deal with those issues. I think it's going to be a very lean budget for higher education. The University of Louisville and all the public institutions support performance funding. We support another round of funding for Bucks for Brains. It's been transformational at the University of Louisville. So we'll work hard, but the reality is that we've got to find other revenue sources. The general fund is our fourth largest, state appropriations our fourth largest source of revenue. And again, 12, 15 years ago, it was number one. So what we're trying to do, Randy, is with our downtown research park, is focus on jobs. The human genome has changed the world, the medical world, and has created a lot of opportunities. So we're very focused on biotechnology jobs, senior care, healthcare jobs. That's our focus downtown on the Belknap campus, primarily advanced manufacturing, logistics and distribution, analytics, and renewable energy. So we're very focused on trying to meet the job needs of this community and this state. That's why we exist.
Okay. The second and final question has to do with the recognition, I believe they're trying to say that many recognize that great education institutions find value in having attractive sports entertainment to the students and to the community in general. And the best way I can phrase this, and it's not a softball question, I'm afraid, Dr. Ramsey, it's what can you tell us about the NCAA investigation that's currently ongoing? It's not a softball one, but it's one they wanted to ask. Thank you.
Well, I work for a dynamic higher education leader at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Michael Hooker, and Michael told me once, he said, athletics can be your best friend and your worst enemy. Under Tom's leadership for 18 years, we've run an amazing athletic program, and you see it not just on the field, but the academic performance of our students and so forth. But allegations have been made. We take those allegations very seriously. We have an investigative committee that has been created pursuant to NCAA bylaws. I'm heading that committee. We have 3 faculty on the committee. We have our general counsel on the committee, and we have our director of compliance. We meet. We hired a ex-NCAA investigator to work with us, and we're working. We went to the NCAA to say we want to work with you. The investigation is still taking place. It's been complicated because of the criminal investigation and all the suits and countersuits. And so a lot of people are afraid to talk to the NCAA because they know that they're going to be interviewed as part of the criminal investigation. So it is moving very slowly. We're determined to find out whether it was one individual, whether money was involved, whether it was multiple individuals, or no money was involved. So we're working on that and moving that forward. And I wish I could tell you more, but I can't. That's sort of where it is.
Thank you. We've enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Ramsey. We so appreciate your being here with us today to speak from the podium. I'm a Fern Creek girl too, so proud to be with you. I missed one announcement earlier, just to let folks know that Monday's Love the Children new member celebration is being postponed because of the expected inclement weather, so we won't have that. But we will be here next week with Mayor Fisher, again, another news-making event. So we hope you'll be joining us, and don't forget to visit with Barry Denton at the What Is Rotary table. With that, thank you for being here. We're adjourned.